Let's welcome now Republican Ed Martin, who has announced his candidacy for Congress in Arizona's 2nd Congressional District. Mr. Martin is a former senior aide to U.S. Senator Alphonse D'Amato before serving in the Reagan administration for a stint at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission before moving to Arizona in 2003. Ed served as a senior aide to the majority leader of the state Senate in upstate New York and Albany. Currently, Mr. Martin is CEO of an organization based in Lexington, Kentucky that advocates for equine welfare and integrity in equine sport. Ed, how are you?
I'm good, Bill. Thanks for having me over today.
Well, it's good to have you, and we're curious why you're in the race. So why did you decide to take the big plunge?
Well, at 59 years old, this country's been good to my family and I. And you wake up one morning and you realize that things have changed. We today live in a country where our politicians just call each other names. They don't seem to do their job. The federal government gets shut down because people can't reach a common ground to work through their differences. I think politics has been cheapened, and it's gotten very nasty. It was always nasty, but the process has been abandoned. But we also have a national security agency that is warehousing data on each and every one of us with regard to every phone call we make, every email we send or receive, every text message, and every website we visit. We have a Department of Justice that wiretaps reporters and threatens investigative reporters with criminal prosecution. And we have an Internal Revenue Service that is discriminating against people and organizations based upon their political beliefs. This is not the country that a lot of us grew up in. And I think that we are in danger of losing our basic constitutional freedoms. I think our free enterprise system has been strangled by the overregulation of many areas. And I think the ordinary folks, the people who are paying for the bills, who don't necessarily pay attention at the level that perhaps they should, are in for a rude awakening, just as we all were when we saw the reports about how southern Arizona is leading the country in poverty. We are number 6 in poverty. And I think the Republicans stopped talking about people. I think they talked a lot about numbers. And I also am a little bit upset, Bill, about the quality of the people who have stepped forward to run for public office. As we were saying before we got on the air, I was personally upset with the way the last election went for Congress. I mean, we had Ron Barber riding around in a car saying he's for the middle class, and Martha McSally was climbing mountains with her dog and raising her right hand saying she wants to make her daddy proud. And, we all want to make our parents proud, and especially those of us that are in the middle class. We're all for the middle class. But I think we deserve stronger leadership for this community, given the challenges that we have. So I decided to step forward and run because I think southern Arizona needs a better choice than the choice we had in the last election.
Ed Martin, if you had been a congressman during this impasse in Washington, how would you have gone? What would your decision have been about the budget and the debt ceiling?
Well, I think I would have voted no on the bill that was eventually went through, but I also think that nobody did anything wrong because nobody really voted for a bill that would shut the government down. What was wrong was the process that we had in the 1980s when I worked on Capitol Hill and Ronald Reagan was president and Democrat Tip O'Neill ran the House of Representatives. But that's when politics worked. You had your differences, but you had a process. The House would pass their bill, the Senate would pass their bill, they'd go into a conference committee. You didn't run the government on a continuing resolution. A continuing resolution was only for a couple of weeks if you couldn't get the deal through on a particular appropriation bill.
Now it's a permanent way of doing business.
But that's why one of the things I've proposed, Bill, is we ought to sanction members of Congress. We sanction everybody else. I mean, if you don't sign up for Obamacare, you're going to get a sanction. So why should we not sanction members of Congress if they're not doing what they're supposed to do? And I think if you're elected to Congress, regardless of whether you're a senator or a congressman, Republican, Democrat, independent, whatever, if during the Congress you were elected to serve, you do not enact, I don't mean pass one House bills, you do not enact a budget and pass the 13 appropriations bills within 30 days of the end of the fiscal year, you everybody is ineligible to run for re-election.
We're speaking with Ed Martin. He is running for Congress in CD2 as a Republican. He will be facing off, at this point, it looks like there will be 2 candidates in the race. There might be more, but he would be facing off in the primary against Colonel Martha McSally. Where do you differ? What are some of the major differences between you and Colonel McSally, Ed Martin?
Well, I still try to figure out what she stands for. I know what I stand for. I mean, I stand for changing Obamacare. I stand for lessening the government regulations and providing a process by which there is review by the elected representatives of the people of the various regulations that are put on industry. You can't do anything in America today without getting permission of the government. And so many companies, so many small businesses are strangled by the fact that they have to have huge compliance costs, whether in personnel or outside consultants, and some government inspector may show up one day and decide, hey, Bill, you didn't do this right, or you didn't read this small print over here, and the next thing you know, you're on the phone to your accountant or your lawyer, and that's money that you could be using to invest in your business and maybe hire somebody. I mean, it's terrible. And the fact that we've got all these one-size-fits-all government programs where if a person wants to work but needs some level of help from the government, they can't go to the next level because they're afraid of losing the help that they are getting. So I think we need to restore power to the individuals in this country.
On your letterhead, you have Ed Martin, and then under that, taxpayer Congressional Accountability Project.
Yeah, that was my you know, people say, what are you? I says, you know, you're liberal, conservative, you're Tea Party, you're progressive. What? I am a taxpayer. And, you know, we're the ones footing the bill for all the nonsense we watch every night on the news.
So you're structuring your I mean, it takes, let's face it, you've been around the business, you know it takes money to make this thing work. How's it going? How are you looking?
Well, I tell you, I think the McSally people are trying to scare me out. I mean, they locked up all the John McCain money. It's come in early for her, and you know, they pretty much have rattled those sabers. But you know, I'm a tough Irishman, Bill. I mean, the political races I was involved with as a younger man were people who came out of complete nowhere. I mean, I remember Al D'Amato going against an incumbent U.S. senator in New York against the Republican machine run by Nelson Rockefeller. He started in February with no money, no name ID. The first poll showed Javits was like 86 and D'Amato was 3, and that was done in April. And he won the September primary and went on to win the general election. So, I mean, if you were to take the election today, I would lose miserably. But the good news is the primary's not till next August.
Ed, I've got 2 minutes, and I've got 2 callers. So, Joe Dreyfus. Joe, how are you today?
Fine, thank you, Bill. How are you?
Doing well.
Show.
Thank you. Real quick for Ed Martin, please.
Okay. Mr. Martin, where do you stand on illegal immigration at this point? 3 times in our history, we've done a mass sweep. It's been successful. The new legislation or proposed legislation is not going anywhere. Where do you stand on this issue?
I don't like the Senate bill, and I would vote no on it. I think you detach the border security issue, which is an issue of securing our border from the illegal drug, people, and gun trafficking that's been going on and has infiltrated cities all across this country and is undermining our children in terms of the drugs. With regard to illegal immigration, I thought a very interesting idea came up during the presidential debates by Newt Gingrich, because I think what we have is a federal bill that's a one-size-fits-all solution. People have violated the law, and if you want to clear a cloud over your head in America, how do you do it? Well, you step forward, you admit to what you've done, and you throw yourself on the mercy of the authorities. And I think some of these instances are very individual. And some of them are people who've skipped the line and jumped the line and come to America. And Bill's given me the notice. And you gave me, I'm sorry, you got 2 minutes to do a complicated issue. But I think you get a flavor. I don't like the Senate bill, and I don't like this idea of one-size-fits-all solutions.
I was kind of wrapping you up there, Ed, because I also had a caller, and we won't hear the caller, but the question was, can you quickly talk about earmarks?
That's how much time do I have?
You got about 30 seconds.
You're gonna have
you like them?
You're going to have me back.
Oh, I will. No question about it.
Well, I tell you one thing. I think the spending, the Constitution puts spending responsibilities and the determination of budgets in the hands of the Congress. And I think I think members of Congress, earmarks have certainly been abused. But in some cases, so have putting the power in the hands of the executive. I mean, just look at things like Solyndra. Government has abused the use of our tax dollars, and they've done it in Congress and they've done it in the executive. So I'd rather focus on the abuse rather than how they got abused.
Ed Martin, what's your website?
It's edmartinforus.com.
edmartinforus.com. Ed Martin, thanks. Great having you on the program.
Thanks. You, Bill.